And welcome to tonight's episode of PCP, the Pagan Center Podcast. I'm Dave.
I'm Amber.
I'm Brennan. I'm here.
Alright. And also joining us tonight are...
I'm Barrett.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Miz.
Hi. I'm Nuria.
I'm Snooze.
Alright, so...
I'm Dustin.
Oh, yeah, we got Dustin in here. I keep forgetting. Wow, there's a lot of people here tonight.
One day we might actually get it right.
Eventually! We might figure out this intro thing after another 200 episodes.
Dude, don't jinx it.
So tonight we're talking about the illusionary dichotomy of good and evil, but before we get started, I just want to have an announcement. Let's boost an organization that's full of win. I'm all about promoting stuff that's full of win, and full of win is The Fire, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Education at thefire.org. So they help defend my free rights at Clarion University while podcasting and exposing the other incompetence involved with some of our student fees, with how they were being spent. And when they were moving to have us expelled, they were there to provide us with legal assistance needed to fight back if it became needed. So, nothing ever happened there, thankfully, but it's awesome as a podcaster to have some lawyers on your side. So check out thefire.org. Please support them. Please promote them. Please support them in some kind of way. If you got the money, give it. If not, spread the word about them. They are full of win. So check them out at thefire.org, and we'll get to the dichotomy of good versus evil after these messages. I think this is an Amber episode, isn't it?
This is an Amber episode.
Okay.
So, how I got about this is whenever you get into in-depth conversations about the differences between Christianity and paganism, inevitably somebody will bring up how Abrahamic paths only see in black and white, but we pagans, we see in all shades of gray. But is that really the way that things are? Many Christian paths will see them as viewing everybody as either right and wrong. Either you follow Jesus or you don't. Either you follow the right God or you don't. Therefore, you are on the good path or you are corrupted by evil. This isn't necessarily true, but we're not going to go into what Abrahamic faiths do or don't believe in. We already know that it's more complicated. But let's tear apart the idea of, do pagans really rise above the black and white view of things? And let's see if it sticks.
All the Christians are evil. I've read it on a Wild Hunt today. It must be true.
Seriously, Dave?
So is Dominionists. We gotta be worried about them. Or so Jason Puts the Water keeps telling us.
Are you still wasting brain
Just because he doesn't get invited to chicken.
Are you still wasting brain space on that?
No, it popped up on the Pagan News Fire Hose today. I'm like, awesome! Actual news coming from Patheos! Click on the article. I'm reading the original article. I was like, wow, this article's full of win. Let's read what the commentary is on Patheos. Oh, this is so full of fail.
Oh, wow.
And the first commenter called Jason on it right away. He's like, dude, what the hell? This is why I hate paganism, because all y'all just keep going on about let's fear the pagans, fear the Christians, hate the Christians, blah, blah, blah. What the hell?
Right? I mean, even in my first example, to kind of bring it up, I was talking about our interview with, or not interview, but our interactions with Patheos and the media poisoning and trying to get everybody to hate one thing. And Dave, you kind of just bring that into it. So awesome! I don't I don't know if I approve of that or not. Damn it!
I want to believe that there is good over there. I guess keep getting proven wrong.
And I thought I had
I've just never ever gotten invited to a really good potluck, is what it is.
But I mean, even if we simplify it down a little bit, even with our issues with Patheos and the Wild Hunt and everything like that, most people will view our issues with things as being stuck with a choice. They'll see that they can either listen to us and side with us and leave Pathos and start picking on Pathos with us, or they'll feel that they have to go to Pathos and stop listening to us. Staying with both is almost considered like you have loyalty issues, or you're being a hypocrite.
You're either with us or you're against us. I think a U.S. president said that crap.
But seriously,
really though, I think they've missed the whole point there, because the beauty of it is if you side with everybody, then, like, if I do that, I get to make equal opportunity fun of both of you.
Exactly.
If that's a motivator, go for it, because that's how I am motivated. I learn about stuff so I can make fun of it.
News. If you're making fun of both of us, we expect hate mail from you.
Huh?
No, she doesn't hate us. She wants to make fun of us. There's a huge difference.
Exactly. I could go all Cody Sacred Fool there or something, but essentially, if somebody decides that you have to play that kind of stuff, and that's the kind of thing that makes me, when somebody gives me a choice like that, that's the kind of thing that makes me finally not pick them, is that doing stuff like that, if you can do it, is what keeps you from turning into the jerk that you're afraid that you're turning into, or that somebody else claims you're turning into. So it's your checks and balances.
Here's a heuristic I found that works fairly decent for me when I remember to stick to it for determining what stays in and out of my field of interest. Okay? Say some miscellaneous organization makes my oh-so-special list. Or person. I set them off aside, and I say, when maybe in 6 months or after I hear 2 or 3 people say something decent about it, I'll check it out again.
Kind of like us with paganspace.net. We have yet to hear good feedback about paganspace.net.
And really, I set my standards exceptionally low for this, and I've had some people fail it. Epically. But we're not going to go there. But still, when it comes to this whole Pathos thing, at this point in time, I view that just as a waste of brain space.
Yeah, it's not so much pointing at Pathos, though. It's just the idea of people feeling the need to choose over one or the other and the actions they take to do so. It's just an example. And the idea of being forced to pick one or the other and how a lot of people choose to do it, it's like being back in high school and playing who's more popular than who. Even the whole don't talk to them or, just ignore them, make them feel the sting of your loss. I don't know how many people, their huge thing is, I don't even go there because then their site gets viewpoints. Like, really? Is that the...
Really, if you want to go there and sting them, click every ad every time you go, because sooner or later somebody's going to investigate for click fraud.
I mean, there are so many other ways to approach this instead of, well, just ignore them or make passive-aggressive comments or don't confront them, just brood about it because, well, they should know why you're upset. You shouldn't have to tell them. It's childish.
It's like high school all over again, and I don't know about you guys, but when I graduated high school, I wanted to leave all that kind of drama behind.
Yeah.
I didn't even do that when I was in high school. I'm sorry.
That's part of the reason I hated high school.
I was gonna say, I didn't even do any of that crap when I was in high school. I just was like, guys, I don't care, and you're cutting into my Doctor Who watching time. So, go away.
Yeah, I didn't have to deal with that until I got into college, oddly enough. But yeah, you see a lot of that within, not just in pagans, but also a lot of the media, politics, everything else, either this person or that person, you can't like some of what this person says and some of what that person says and pick and choose.
Well, I think, Brandon, I think your advice could be expanded to, you know what they do in politics? Yeah, don't do any of that.
And that's what it's sort of coming down to, is politics. At least that's what it feels like. So.
Yeah. And even on the flip side, we also have that people are very quick to jump to conclusions that other people are attacking them. The whole, well, if somebody's ignoring me, they must be mad at me because they're not talking to me.
Well,
they made a comment on... Go ahead, Dave.
They might just have paranoid schizophrenia.
This is also true. You know,
or they need to unplug from their phone. Sorry.
Or stop working 90 hours a week.
You know, it can't be a logical reason, obviously. And I'll tell you what, even half the time when I've heard people say things like, well, maybe they're busy, it's always in that whiny tone, like they're really not convinced of it. It's, oh, I'm really hoping that they're busy, but I really feel that they're mad at me.
You know, if you think they're busy, there's a thing called asynchronous communication where you can communicate with them and they don't need to talk back to you right away. It's called fucking email. Use it.
You know? It's not that hard. And it's
Dude,
not
that was like a foamy outtake. Sorry.
I'm in a foamy kind of mood today.
I had to do props just then because it really was. Sorry, Amber. Kick on.
That's alright.
Yay, foamy.
I mean, it's not like passive-aggressive things don't happen. There are passive-aggressive people out there, and there are paranoid people out there. It's not to say that none of that is ever valid, but all of that kind of antagonizes how we look at whether something is good or whether it is bad, whether it's right or whether it's wrong. You know, even if we disagree with somebody's methods of confronting a problem, we automatically jump to, well, they're wrong. They're not replying to me the way I want them to.
Well, I mean, ultimately, the thing that pisses me off more than anything else, when you're trying to work together with somebody, is if they have an issue and they don't confront you about it. Especially if you have an issue with them. It's another thing if you have an issue with somebody else and you just don't want to blow steam off at them. But, you know, when you have an issue with them, nothing good comes of prolonging conflict. At all.
Yeah.
Well, now let's look at a recent. We're not going to name any names, but recently someone went and via email for a social group that I'm in said, yeah, a lot of you people are dropping the ball. WTF gives. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And upon reading, which I was a ball dropper, I got my own issues, I'm not going to go there, but I was like, yeah, I called him an asshole underneath my breath. Thought about it. It's like, okay, well, what can I do to fix the situation? They have an issue with what I'm doing. Okay. Set stuff in motion. Why? Because there was a good bit of feedback. Somebody can say something there.
Post-scurvy silence.
I don't know. I got a weird halfway point with that because I frequently say things that people, you know, go, "What the hell is wrong with you?" And sometimes they should, and sometimes they're misunderstanding me. And if I've got
that's
something
why we
that,
like you.
well, you know that, and I'm good for target practice, but
It's yourself, bring water balloons.
Hey, mud's good for the complexion. But I try to kind of hit the middle distance between saying, hey, listen, if I screwed something up or I said something, or if you're just being an idiot but you want me to be the one to apologize or whatever, I might do it. And not jumping right on it. So it's kind of like I'm kind of thinking, okay, this is out of character behavior for you. I'm going to figure that maybe you're having a really crap day, and I'm going to stand back. Or if it really, really, really royally pisses me off, I'm probably going to try to sleep on it because that way I'm not going off on somebody when maybe I should be going, okay, you might have a point, or there's a better way I could phrase this, even if I do think you're an idiot. And I feel like that's the responsible way to do it, but then there's some people that feel like if you don't immediately jump right on a misunderstanding or something that makes you angry, then you're being passive aggressive. And there's got to be a happy medium somewhere between standing still for a minute and thinking about it and letting it fester and, you know, going and sulking in the corner with your little cheerleader friends.
Well,
Okay.
I think a lot of this cheerleading comes from the fact that they believe something that is wrong and inaccurate, and I cannot let them believe something that is wrong and inaccurate for any period of time. Like,
Okay, I got an idea. Let's do a
XKCD
round,
cartoon.
let's do a round robin
Sorry.
real quick, okay? I'm going to ask a question. I'd like everybody to answer it. Okay? How would you like, in what form would you like to receive criticism?
Written with citations.
Okay, very good, Maria.
oral with citations.
Oral with citation.
No,
Written oral.
just be plain and get to the point already. I don't want to sit here through a 10-minute spiel about, you know, this is how we need to work together. You know, get to the fucking point. Why am I fucking up and how can I fix it?
Agreed.
Or-
I want mine with chocolate and sprinkles.
I want diagrams.
Oh, yeah, diagrams are good. Flowcharts
Yeah,
are good.
that's- Actually, diagrams still actually as a serious suggestion is not entirely bad, but even still, I'm more or less with Dave and Maria in this camp. Please keep it short and to the point. Tell me what I'm screwing up. Tell me how I can fix it.
But I think the thing is, we can all talk about how we would like to get criticism, but the fact is we're not always going to receive it that way.
Oh, I know, but I mean, it's my effort at positive change.
Yeah, that's how I give criticism. You know that.
You know, as much as we would like to receive it one way, that doesn't make the way that somebody else is doing it is wrong offhand. You know, there's a lot of things that make us feel uncomfortable that other people do, but, you know, going back to trying to look at wrong or right or the good way of doing things or the bad way of doing things, we all have our personal feelings of how we would prefer it. But whether it's because it makes us feel awkward or face things we don't want to see, or we don't like the way somebody does it, like if they only confront people after they've had a couple of drinks, or maybe we just don't want to talk to them because they're friends with people over at Pathos. It doesn't necessarily make anything wrong. Or maybe it does. It's easy to point at somebody that brings up something that's uncomfortable. I mean, if it's something that we're comfortable with, you know, Scurv's example of being told, y'all are dropping the ball here, and you can look at it and go, yeah, I guess I was screwing up. That's easy. It can be uncomfortable, but it's easy to look at something like that and go, well, maybe he should have done it in a different tone, but yeah, I screwed up, or whatever your thoughts may be. But if it's something that's more of a serious issue, it's much easier to go off the deep end, and a lot of people will jump on, well, they shouldn't have done that. Yeah, oh, well, they shouldn't have done that because we were on the podcast and we were live, and they shouldn't have talked about a certain topic.
Yeah, but it's always easy for people who don't do anything and criticize those who actually do stuff.
This is true.
Especially when something doesn't go the way it was ideally supposed to go. It's a lot easier to go back and be like, well, obviously that was wrong. I don't know why the heck they would have done it. That was such a stupid move. You see this in politics all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, let's be real, okay? When it comes down to it, everybody here has to put bread and butter on our own tables, correct?
My bread and butter teleports itself onto my table.
Very good. But we all have our self-preservation interests to protect and all that stuff. We each have different experiences. Sometimes I might wonder why somebody does something a certain way, but I like originality. Maybe the person didn't want to go ballistic on something because, well, maybe they have some compassion in them. Maybe they went ballistic on something because, well, maybe it's their idea of tough love, or they're just venting. Who knows? I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
Go ahead.
I think a lot of the problem that you get in communities, in any community now, even in just small groups of people, is the fact that nobody knows how to take criticism or give criticism anymore. I mean, anytime you say that somebody did something wrong or could have done something differently, you're attacking them as a person, and it's like we don't know how to do anything but flame and do ad hominem attacks anymore.
Well, we only know how to do that on the internet, not in person.
Yeah, and although it's one of those, you say something, you're like, why are you bad? It's like, dude, what's wrong with you? I didn't do anything wrong. And it's that nobody knows how to give constructive criticism. And
Well, criticism, constructive or not, isn't politically correct, and I think we've gotten way too politically correct as a culture to tell someone they're screwing up once in a while because, we gotta treat everybody equally and nice, and, well, they're special, and, no, they're screwing up. Tell them.
Mm-hmm.
dude,
And this is why I watch South Park.
I think it falls somewhere between the two because I see people who will not give constructive criticism or even ask for clarification on a situation because they're being too politically correct, and all conflict or confrontation must automatically be evil and bad. And then I see people who they resort to real nastiness and trolling and being really uncalled for and even trying to deal with it in an adult fashion. And when you say, dude, maybe you could ask for some clarity first before you go diving in with the ad hominem or ad Hitlerum, and they'll screech back at you, oh, you're trying to be PC. It's like, it's extremes. It's either you've got to be so PC that you can't say, hey, we have some room for improvement here, or we need some accuracy here, or you've got to come out attacking, flailing, nailing everybody with a weed eater to prove that you're not PC. It's like, guys, make up your mind.
I would take that up a level to one more level of concern. Groupthink. Attacking someone isn't okay until a couple of people do it, and then everybody just piles on because, well, that's what the cool people are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Lemmings.
Well, yeah, exactly. And you can look at the Wild Hunt blog today and see that. The first person posted is like, dude, what the heck is up with all this hating on Christians crap? And everybody's like, I didn't see that. I don't know what was going on. Yeah, I agree with that person. I don't see nothing about this article. And Jason Pitts of Waters is like, I don't even see that in my own article. It's like, dude, you fucking wrote it.
Yeah, you don't see me over there anymore for a reason, dude.
And sometimes the lemming syndrome is just as bad as jumping on people and assuming attacks.
Mm-hmm.
Or not being able to take criticism. It just leads to blind thinking that we always seem to accuse other people of other faiths on.
Well, all this bickering, at the end of the day, it's why I think I brought it up somewhere on Google Plus in a conversation. At the end of the day, the pagan community is nothing more than a bunch of people trying to be a leader in an organization. They're too busy trying to become leader and making sure nobody else will tell them what to do, and they're sizing up their proverbial sexual parts. See who's the most macho there. It's like, oh, I want to be in charge, but I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. And it's just like, this is the eternal cycle of bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, fucking get along and work together, people. That's what Peter Diving keeps slapping us in the head to do, and we might as well be starting to do that.
And it's easy to look at other things and criticize. It's very easy to say that, it shouldn't be happening. And when it's little things, But what about when we even take into big discussions? I mean, if we're having problems even taking constructive criticism, I think there's a problem in saying that we see all shades of gray when we're still jumping to two ends of the spectrum. But then when you add in something like talking about poly relationships versus monogamous relationships, something that's intrinsic to the pagan community rather than just us as a group of people in a community. Or if we talk about how to rear children in a pagan household, those are ones that erupt a lot of strong feelings in people, that it becomes real easy to
it's a lot easier to polarize.
Yeah. Thank you, Dave. And yet we're sitting here trying to say, well, we don't do that.
Yeah, yet there's very clear, demonstrable experience of us experiencing this. You know, and like raising a child is a great example. You know, me and Kat have a little one on her way here, and the main thing here is, you know, she's very pro something, I'm very anti something, or she's very anti something, and I'm very pro something. We're like, okay, well, we got to figure out how we're going to do this, because we can't fight about this. We got to figure out something that works right. And that's, I think, coming to a amicable medium without this whole everybody running away pissed is something that's been lost. People just have lost the negotiating skills. You know, it's like, well, why is this important to you? Well, okay, well, yeah, we could do that. I don't really give two shits, you know. And then why is this important to me? Well, it's because of this. And it's like, oh, well, I don't really care about that. Let's do that, you know. We just don't see that in paganism. But I think a lot of it has to do with this bizarre notion that stems out of the chaos that is Wicca, that everybody has to lead something, and you're not something if you're not a leader. It's like, dude, there is nothing wrong with being a follower. In fact, there's a lot more to being a contributor than being a leader, because being a contributor to something means that you're contributing to something worthwhile, where the people are actually filtering who can and cannot contribute. And that teamwork and that working together means we can all work towards bigger and better goals instead of constantly bickering in our little 2 or 3 person groups.
But Dave, how will I judge my success if I don't have anybody else to judge it on? I have to compete with somebody, Dave.
Nobody's going to stroke my ego because I'm not a leader. It's like, dude, give up your ego already, you know. I mean, if COG and Circle Sanctuary and all those organizations could put aside their differences for once in their fucking lives to get together in Georgia and work together toward a goal, I think we can all do it too.
And for some reason, when it comes to really touchy subjects, people have this weird concept that if you allow yourself to empathize with another's viewpoint, then that automatically means that your point is less valid. I'm not sure where that came about.
Well, I mean, it's the standards we apply to politicians. How dare his stance change? How dare he become more educated and change his mind as a result of additional knowledge?
Right?
It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
I don't understand that. Okay, I hate to think that at this moment I know everything I'm going to know for the rest of my life. I'm sorry. That right there, if I'm thinking about this, is almost justifiable grounds for suicide. Because the moment you cease having the ability to learn, well, I mean, what are you doing here?
Life is boring without new information.
Exactly.
Push over silence.
Take a drink. Take a drink.
I mean, let's be real. I mean, let's.
We're doing the same thing.
While I'm living here, I'm taking up O2. I'm putting CO2 in the air. I'm aggravating people while driving. You know the deal. And all of the fun stuff. And if I'm not actually learning, if I'm not improving, then I'm what? Basically a living machine? That's not a life. So
But again, it goes back to those are easy to, everyday things are really easy to look at logically and take aside. But
Yeah,
when it gets into... Go ahead, Dave.
I mean, there's a lot to this whole working together thing. I mean, it's been my grand experiment for the past few months, especially since PSG. But Peter Diving's is one of those people that I don't listen to a whole lot of people, and if he tells me to do something or at least try something out, I'll probably do it. And yeah, this whole working together with other people thing has worked out mostly. I mean, there's some groups I had to leave because, well, there was reasons for fail. But for most of the organizations, it's been on the up and up. It's been actually a very thoroughly pleasant experience. Lone Star Pagan is a great group of people I work with to cover news in Texas. And, Fit Pagan, I'm working to get that merged in with another pagan fitness blog, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, just so many opportunities out there to work together with other people for once. And paganism has actually gotten to the point where it's grown and matured to the point where there's a lot of people that aren't full of fail that you can work with.
Especially with people like Peter Diving pushing us and going, knock it off. You to your corner, hug and make up. Let's go.
We've started meeting.
Kiss and make out?
To do it without...
No.
Scurvy, I know you need to do that desperately, but no.
I mean, this is the pagan community and all that stuff. I mean, it is a little bit more, I'm looking for a word here. Not forgiving, endorsing, understanding. Oh, I'll figure it out later. Pardon?
Permissive?
Bad comment. Bad snooze.
There we go.
Bad
It is a little bit more permissive of the whole kiss and make up philosophy. Or kiss and make out philosophy.
Scurvy silence.
Take a drink.
Take a drink!
We're following along too. We talk about this quietly.
I have no. You're dropping the bar for what's needed for post-Scurvy silence. I was not worthy of post-Scurvy silence.
We'll have to have an official officiate what is and is not post-Scurvy silence.
Yeah. That one was short. I only took a half sip.
I feel like I need to go get a drink.
My ranting has become a drinking game. Interesting.
Oh, it's not just for drinking. Yeah, I do ranting. There are other things that contribute to the drinking game.
I think I will add that to my list of accomplishments in life.
I don't think that's an accomplishment to be proud of.
I think he's just looking for accomplishments.
I think that's...
Maybe not proud of, but use that.
Let's be real. I mean, even if it's not something to be proud of, I mean, it's still an accomplishment, and
It is neither a good nor evil accomplishment.
Quite frankly, people need to do that more often. Oh well.
Drink,
Dave. Stop with the announcer voice. I'm gonna get sloshed here.
Okay, Samber, you can move along with the outline now. I think we're up to, if you disagree with someone's method of confronting a problem, they are wrong.
Either, like a drinking game.
I think we kind of passed and hammered that. Kind of mutilated it. Nah, we did that one. They can say we did that one.
See, my problem is I'm all about embarrassing people. I mean, if you get to the level of colossal fail where I'm actually pissed off at you for the level of stupid that has fallen out of your mouth, I'm all about embarrassing you.
Words of confidence, Dave. Words of confidence.
I mean, it has to be done responsibly. I mean, and there are repercussions for doing that, but, I mean, everybody on Google Plus that adds me on Google Plus and mentions Occupy has gotten to know this real quick about me.
But I mean, it's real easy, and I've heard a couple times where people will point at what you do, Dave, and say, well, that was inappropriate because of this, that, and the other thing, and all of a sudden, instead of just saying this was inappropriate and even talking to you about it, it's, well, I'm not going to talk to him anymore.
Yeah.
I'm going to,
and
it's almost
what?
like...
It makes my life so much better. You're saying this like this is a bad thing. These are the exact people I don't want talking to me.
But it's more of looking at them and going, these people call themselves pagan, and yet they're still using the dual end of the spectrum to put people and people I listen to and people I don't listen to. These people are good people. They're enlightened people. These people are in Dave's category, and they're even evil people that will attack you when you're not looking.
Or when you let lots of stupid fall out of your mouth.
And that's kind of exactly the point, is there's so much more to why people do things the way that they do.
Yeah, I should have died like 8 years ago. I'm playing the bonus round, people. I really just stopped giving a fuck. Not that I don't care emotionally about people or anything like that. I'm just sick and tired of stupid. I'm going to vent about stupid.
But I can't, well, I could sit there and go, Dave, you know, I don't really agree with the way that you lash out at people, because I think you do it too public, or, you know, embarrassing people is not the right way. But what it comes down to is you have a different way to do things. And for a lot of people, trying to understand that you may have your own reasons for doing things, for some reason, is really, really difficult. It's almost as if they try to understand why you do things or why anybody else does things, that means either they accept it, or they feel like they have to accept it, or they feel that because they can understand and it's something that they don't like, that means that secretly, somewhere in the depths of their soul, there's something dark and evil that they have to admit is hiding back there.
He's got
instead of
energy.
Shush!
All this rumor about me, I love keeping that one alive.
Was that a Barrett reference?
It probably was. He did mention that quite a few times.
Who's got dark energy?
Me.
Dave.
Because
yours is more slimy than dark.
Dark is not evil, people.
No, it's not.
I'm so sick of people thinking that way. It's driving me insane.
It is if you're a Gardnerian who puts your wife under a love spell and then goes to Walmart naked and wonders why you're freezing cold when it's fucking December and January in Clarion, Pennsylvania.
So it's wrong if you're a moron.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, there are some years here in Pennsylvania where we do cut the grass on Christmas.
Yeah, this wasn't one of those years.
Yeah. I had to try.
Yeah, you tried. It was an admirable attempt.
Really? It's cold in Pennsylvania? It's damn warm in Winnipeg.
Well, it's warm in Pennsylvania right now, but still.
Yeah.
This is one of those years Scurvy's talking about.
We haven't had too many cold days this year, but we don't really get them till February.
And I would certainly never take something somebody said and turning it into a URL like I'mBleedingProfusely.com.
Actually, Dave, I think that's part of your reason for living.
Evil, Dave. Evil. This just goes to prove the point.
I am alive because I provide entertainment to the divine.
Your purpose is to point out all the fail in the universe.
Well, it's a bit of a more Abrahamic comic that I saw, but there's this picture of there's this comic where God is standing above the globe of Earth, and he's got a jar labeled jerks, and he's adding some, saying this will shake things up. And the only reason why I mention it is because when we're just talking about Dave, it just came back to me for some reason. I'm not sure if this is relevant or not, but hey, it's mentioned.
Such love.
See, I used to do that whole caring about, oh, well, we shouldn't confront them directly or too loudly. We should go through the proper channels, and, not just professional, but, social as well. And you know where that got me in life? Fucking dead. So, we're changing things up a little. Hey, I'm still alive, so.
Obviously you're doing something right.
Yep.
Life is always more complicated. I mean, Dave, as much as we know and love you, it's very easy to be upset at some of the things you do.
Oh, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being upset. It comes into when people can't put their feelings aside.
I break very far outside of social norms.
Yes, you do. But if we go farther into the more pagan side of it, when it comes to metaphysics and energy work, where do we get our ideas of right and wrong from? If we look at, let's go into major examples. Animal sacrifice. Where do we get our ideas that animal sacrifice is either a good or a bad thing? Because most people will have a very automatic gut response of whether it is okay or whether it is not okay.
Social norm.
Well, first question I ask a person before they tell me whether they think is a good or bad idea is, are you a vegetarian?
And then what are your reasons for being vegetarian? Because there are some people who do it for the animal rights, and some people who do it for health reasons, and 50 billion other reasons.
True, but I mean, if they're doing it for the animal rights and all that stuff, and they believe animal sacrifice is wrong, okay,
there's a correlation there.
They've got a definite worldview opinion in my life, or in their life, that I can really get behind, maybe not agree with, but I can, you're onto something.
Yeah, but we're only exploring half the question.
But now, if they're I know, but if they're telling you that they don't agree with animal sacrifice while we're eating steaks...
Bingo.
Yeah, but you're talking about diet, we're talking about spiritual animal sacrifice. Vegetarian is one thing, but when it comes to, like Dave said, we're only covering half of, they can have their ideas if they're vegetarian, but we're talking about the common group.
We never defined animal sacrifice. And coming from the person who constantly asks this, the definition of everything, this should have been a very obvious thing.
Or even a vegetarian can do an animal sacrifice if it is called for in their ritual, but it goes back to that, do you personally feel that it's ethical or not? And Amber threw a little area in here for me to throw in my 2 cents, because I think I've gone over the outline of this about 3 or 4 times with her. But the whole idea that where did animal sacrifices originally become a taboo? Trying to think back, other than Buddhism and Christianity, there's very few religious orders that I can think of off the top of my head that did not involve animal sacrifices. I mean, even the Native Americans themselves, whenever they went out hunting for food, considered whatever they killed, a spiritual sacrifice. And I have a little note here about kosher meats that, they're wrong.
Brandon, would you not let the cats screw with your cord because you keep going in and out?
I'm sorry. Erodia, shoe. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. But, going back to, the note here of kosher meat, Jesus was a Jew. The Jewish did, all of their meat went through a religious ceremony to be sacrificed so that they can eat it. So, right or wrong, I mean, it's there. We mainly see it in come up in the news in dealing with voodoo practices. But there's plenty of other religions out there that deal with some sort of sacrifice of a living being, especially a lot of the pagan practices. Now, go ahead.
No, sorry, you can finish. I just had an idea, so when you're done, absolutely.
Okay. So just to wrap it up real quick, we're thinking that animal sacrifices are wrong. Looking at the minority versus majority, in truth, animal sacrifices are normal. And it's actually a more respectful way of getting your food than buying at Walmart, that's been slaughtered by the dozens or by the hundreds. So go ahead. What was your point?
I was going to say maybe, because you're asking, and it's a really good question, when did it become normal and almost a good thing because it was respectful into a taboo? I'm thinking a lot of things like that happened when a lot of, I'm going to use a weird term, like city people were being turned towards Christianity and things like that. Oh, look at what they do. Look at what they do. They kill animals. And they weren't explained why these people were doing something like that. So it might have been something that higher-ups didn't explain and tried to turn people against, which made them think, ooh, these people are bad. They do this. And harming animals is bad that way.
I really like what she's going on here because it makes sense, because what does the word pagan actually mean? Hex.
Country dweller?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it sounds to me like something the church could say, hey, look at those people. They kill their animals. They sacrifice it. Amber, here's one that you might get. They run around in their furs and things like that. They're horrible. They're evil. That could literally have been how and where it started.
Yeah, how dare they kill chickens? I go get my chicken at the supermarket where no chickens have died.
Exactly.
I think there was actually a biblical basis for that. I think that actually tied into the whole story about Jesus trashing the temple with the money changers. I think that was actually set forth there, that you should no longer sacrifice animals. That's got a definite Christian root, though.
Yeah, the original deal was supposed to be that Christ would... Sorry.
Oh,
go ahead.
Oh, well, no, the reason Christ tipped over the tables was he was ticked off that there was, people were selling stuff in his father's house.
Yeah, that too.
He was pissed over at the commerce, not about the animal sacrifice. Where Christians no longer do animal sacrifices, Christ exclaimed, I am the Paschal Lamb. My blood is sacrificed for all of your sins here and in the future. So Christ gave up his life, in theory, for any animal sacrifices that needed to be done. Not because he was ticked off they were killing animals in the temple.
Yeah, that too. It was...
We're okay with human sacrifice, but not animal sacrifice.
A real quick, logical, more scientific thought on it is before our normal sewer systems and stuff, people doing sacrifices and even doing butchering in their own homes in a city sense where you're having millions of people in a city, that can get real messy real quick and probably was caused a lot of disease, the rotting blood, so on and so forth, in the streets.
Yeah.
So in a mass people area, that would be very, very bad. So that also may be somewhat where that idea came from too, because even in America, there's still places that don't necessarily have the plumbing like most of us do. They still have outhouses and stuff like that. So, I mean, the idea of the animal sacrifices sort of come a long way from for a hygienic reason, also. But it's still sad that most people, I'd probably say that majority of Americans don't really realize where their food is coming from, other than the fact of the grocery store.
So we talked about scientific reasons and things like that. Can we talk from a purely metaphysical sense, where we get the idea of where animal sacrifice can be acceptable or not acceptable?
The wicking weed!
Could it be
Pretty
more
much.
to the gods that we've lost?
Hmm?
Could it be more of a connection to the gods or something that we've lost? Something where we used to feel more like we could talk with them, and we could argue that we could talk with them a little bit more in the past, and kind of come to the conclusion that we were doing it for them, and doing it on much more of a respectful level, and things have just been, oh no, we shouldn't do that anymore.
I think she's kind of got that right, because there are a lot of people who are pagans that don't actually really believe that you can interact directly with deities and have a result. And they kind of look at you like you're a little bit gullible if you believe that. But if you look at voodoo and the Yoruban, African diaspora faiths, they're definitely hands-on, ring them up, tell them what you need, they're going to deliver, and the sacrifice is how energy doesn't just happen. It has to come from somewhere. And if they sacrifice an animal, which it's not somebody brutally ripping a chicken's head off or whatever, more or less they're killing the animal in honor of an honored guest in their home for Sunday dinner. And that happens to be you paying the Orishas back for the energy that they expended on your behalf to benefit you. So really, it's kind of like having one of your neighbors come over and help you put your barn up, and then you feed them chicken dinner, for supper for working all day.
I think this also moves us into another issue that it's not on here. It's more of a subtle issue, but the right and wrong of blood sacrifice, whether it is yours or another animal's or another being's. I know that at least in the early stages of me in paganism, there was a lot of back and forth, blood sacrifice, is that good, is it bad, is it right, is it wrong? There's always some debate there, and that gets into a lot of my actual issues with Christianity and self-sacrifice and power and God's liking blood sacrifices more or less, but I know we've had done episodes on it, what gods like, what sacrifices, and so on and so forth. But, there's a whole other issue there stemming off of that, is your own blood versus animals' blood versus whatever.
I know it's something a lot of people go over is, Sam, I know you've had encounters where people go, blood magic is bad. Anybody that does blood magic, there's obviously something wrong with them. They're into dark stuff.
Or obviously haven't read the entirety of Wiccan Dogma.
And what's wrong with being in line with dark stuff anyway?
Agreed.
Can't have one without the other.
We're not supposed to still be Christian.
Right.
It's really easy to... And even though we can look at this and say, well, historically, this is where it went wrong. So historically, we should have no ill feelings toward animal sacrifice or blood magic. We can look at it logically, but a lot of times we still have that emotional drawing of, yeah, but it's not okay. I don't think
Bambi.
it's right. Exactly! You're killing the cute fuzzy animals.
Bambi tastes good.
Bambi does taste really good.
That is hitting me.
So what about something else that is just as taboo? What about forcing another into ritual? We see it in Catholicism as exorcism. If somebody feels that you are overtaken by an evil spirit, they don't wait for your consent to do an exorcism.
That's more.
They go ahead and do it.
There are views.
That'd be awesome to exorcise the Catholic out of someone. You will no longer rape little children. But I never raped little children. You won't do it anymore.
There are branches of paganism that view there are evil spirits that can take over, or dark spirits, or unwanted spirits, or whatever adjective you put towards them.
And then there's Reiki.
There's Reiki, where you do things and it doesn't really matter. There are a lot of things where you could force somebody into ritual, or some of them, initiation, is you get kidnapped. Even some tribal, that into some secret societies, you would get kidnapped into the society, and that's part of how it went. And a lot of people will jump and say, well, that's not right. Everything has to be willing, and that's just the way things are, because everything, you have to want to do things. Where do those ideas come from? And is it as easy as saying yes or no? It should always be with consent, or it's all gray.
I know when I was being taught in Reiki, and then in more, I took some classes that were protection from dark energy, but it pretty much was how to perform an exorcism, which was pretty wild. But we went into this, do you need consent? And it honestly was a gray area. They're like, well, technically you do, but if someone's really having a hard time, are they going to be able to even admit that they need help? So maybe to help them, you need to do it without consent. And this is the only part I disagree with, because it comes from love and light, if it's not supposed to go there, you can't force it, because everything is good. which always irked me.
There you go.
But that was their
I
justification.
got to cheat for that. I got to cheat for that, though. It's like, I have a beef with what I've referred to as healing the world without its permission. People saying, oh, this is what's wrong and this is what needs to be fixed according to their standards, which they may or may not have consulted whoever or whatever they're applying their standards to fix things to. If I'm looking at somebody and I know that they're having a really bad time with something, I can more or less sort of put it off on my gods and say, okay, he looks like he's having a really crap time, and things are really shitty, and, he needs something to give and go his way. I want to wish him whatever luck is best for him. And if, you guys throw that wherever it needs to go. I'm just putting the wish behind it and the intent and the will that it be good for them behind it. So it's kind of a cheat, but I figure it's probably about the best way to do it without looking at someone saying, oh, I know what you need to do. I need to throw energy towards you changing your job, changing your diet, or, possibly wearing different shoes, because that's usurping somebody else's will. But if I throw it out there just to say, I wish luck would come your way for whatever is good for you, I figure the gods can apply it more, more specialized. So I'll throw it off on them.
Conversely, though, I remember, being pagan at a Catholic school was really hard, especially because I was a little bit outspoken, just a little bit. And, they're talking about baptism, and I said, well, isn't baptism like metaphysical rape? And they're like, what? And I said, well, you're taking an infant that in no way, shape, or form can ever give consent to what you're about to do, and you're initiating it underneath your God, so your God now has claim over it. I said, what if that child resents it later on? I said, like me, I said, I never wanted to be baptized.
Amen.
So why, how full of yourself do you have to be that you think you can make that judgment? Well, that's their parents' call, and under their house, Like, you're really going to give me it's my house, it's my rules bullshit talk about baptism? Like, we're talking
This is
about...
why we need to exorcise the Catholic out of people so they stop raping little children.
Seriously, it took years to get the Catholic out of me, man. I tried learning Wicca from a Catholic perspective. I was like, where's the dogma? I need to know the rules. I need to know, I was like, dude, that's not how Wicca works.
Which is kind of funny because you actually get to talk to some of the Wiccan elders out there, and you'll eventually find out, yeah, we made that one up. and this is the one I like the best. Well, things just needed to get done at the time, so we just kind of ignored that one.
But, it was really hard to, I think as pagans and as people, generalizing, pretending that the pagan community is well educated and knowledgeable, being people that deal with energy work and understand a little bit more about the give and take and what it means to actually pledge yourself to something, it was very hard, and I was never able to get through my theology teacher that you initiated me against my consent, and that's not okay. Like, no means no, and if I can't say no, until I can, you can't make that judgment for me. So,
I see a billboard now. No means no. Don't rape little children. And you have, the picture on the billboard of a baby getting baptized.
Right? The only issue is that they don't hold them under long enough.
It's not metaphysical rape, it's metaphysical molestation. Get it right, they're infants.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Well, no, and then you got, you're talking about being baptized without consent and such. Then you've got the branch of Catholicism I was raised with, the Eastern Rite, does things even further because you're baptized by tradition at 90 days old. And not only are you baptized, but you receive first reconciliation, first communion, and you're confirmed, all at 90 days old, as an infant.
That's not cool.
What the heck are you doing confirming my faith for me?
Right? And that's actually the Eastern Rite. That's the exorcism rite that I learned. And you're right, you guys are whacked.
Yeah, that was the baptism.
Welcome to the League of Recovering Catholics here on PCP tonight. As last month was Catholic Month over at the BeliefNet blog that Andrew Bowen runs. We were supposed to have him on tonight, but we'll go ahead and have the Recovering Catholic session in his place without him.
We need to start another Facebook group.
Yet another
Yeah. Yeah, we do.
Recovering Catholics Anonymous, RCA.
The Roman Catholics.
Could it be Recovering Christians Anonymous?
But, bringing it back to paganism, I know some families and some covens who are just as comfortable initiating their young children into coven work.
Don't get me started on awakenings. It's
It's the same thing.
It's the same metaphysical rape.
Same rape.
And they'll say, well, but they're older. And we can look at it and say, well, psychologically speaking, there's parts of the brain that aren't developed until their 20s. So even if they decide when they're 10, most kids want to do what mommy and daddy does. And, they love mommy and daddy. So what kid wouldn't? It's a rare find. So does that make it okay because they can talk?
Here's my gauge for if a kid's an adult. Did you give him the keys to the car to drive to the supermarket to pick up groceries and money to do so? If the answer to that is no, because you are worried about what will happen, then your child is not yet an adult.
In most cases, that works. I know a couple of overprotective parents that it wouldn't matter if they're 60.
We did the same cheat. Maybe I should get a copyright on this cheat because it might actually.
You might as well. You know how they have the cheat sheets at the bookstores. Accounting and economics. You need to have paganism, the cheat sheet.
I think I'm actually thinking about doing that now because we had this conversation. I had this conversation with somebody a couple of days ago. We did a quote unquote wickening for some friend's new baby, and they didn't dedicate him to anyone or anything as much as it was an opportunity for friends of the family and relatives to all ask their gods, "Hey, look out for this kid." You know, maybe make his way a little easier, or make the lessons worthwhile if he has to go through it. And then everyone gave their own personal blessing to the kid. Like the one that I gave was, "May learning come easily to you." And that's the way we did it, instead of actually saying, "I dedicate you to fill in the blank god or goddess," that way. So it's, I think maybe
the
watered
flashcard
down
edition.
No, it's
Yeah,
more like
the
it's
watered
the
down-
scene from Sleeping Beauty when all the fairies come.
I'm glad I'm not
Yeah.
the only one who thought of that.
everybody gives a gift, gives a gift to make life easier or something. So I kind of think non-committal, lackadaisical, fairly chicken shit way I do things might actually work. Huh.
I approve.
Cool.
And I don't want to just think that
Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody, though. Somebody might try to make me lead something.
Don't worry, Snooze. Nobody listens to the show.
Oh, good. Because that leading crap is garbage. And they make you wear name tags. It's horrible.
You know
especially
what?
if you're
Dave
track
does
lab.
have a name tag.
Damn, you're right.
Now, I do remember somebody,
You're screwed, man.
a girl that I had gone to school with in college. She had little girls. She had a little girl and a little boy. And she dedicated her 1-year-old, she was 1 at the time when she did this, to Hecate, which is a terrible idea.
Oh, wow.
And the child was not normal. Like, I think it was a changeling. It wasn't right. There was something wrong. But I told her, I said, that's just as bad as you saying that you didn't want to be baptized. I said, your daughter didn't have any consent. Like, I don't know. I'm cool with almost everything as long as there's consent. Like, I don't care if you want your balls stepped on while dressed up as a baby covered in watermelons. Like, if you agree to it.
The Gallagher baptism.
Oh my god.
Picture it didn't happen.
Amen, sister.
But what about more if we talk about more subtle, like, love spells? Almost everybody has a point on whether they're okay, they're inappropriate, they're okay, but only like this.
It goes
But
back
Amber-
to consent. You're enacting your will on another person without their consent. And obviously, if you have to resort to a love spell, they probably don't like your ugly ass anyway. So they wouldn't have consented to it in the first place, even if you did bother to ask them. So that's it comes back down to consent, and there's no way to have consent in a love spell. So I think it's morally not right.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I stand on that one.
Unless, you can phrase it, kind of how Snooze was saying, like, asking for, please don't let me miss the chance to meet the person I'm supposed to, or let me be open to the experience of meeting somebody that's beneficial in my life. That kind of way, I think, is okay. But saying, I want Joe to fall madly in love with me. It's the way... Oh, there is some... I keep forgetting. That's yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a generic name. Bob. Do we have a Bob? Do we have a Robert?
I don't think so.
I don't think we have a Bob from the north here.
Okay.
You don't have a scurvy either by the looks of it.
No,
He
went
left.
to bed. Bounce chicka bow wow. Anyway.
But the silly thing is, like, it's the same thing that I say about scientists. Like, scientists are here now screwing with stuff that, as a geek, they've probably watched every episode of Star Trek and of movies that have, like, this is what happens when you clone people. This is what happens when you try to mess with, like, the time continuum or make a super collider, or, they see how bad it happens. This is what happens when you talk to aliens. But yet they're the ones trying to do that. And as pagans, we've watched all the shitty pagan movies. And every shitty pagan movie revolves around some kind of badass love spell that goes terribly wrong. Like, we should know better.
Yeah, I mean, we watch Doctor Who.
Watch Doctor Who, Practical Magic, Charmed, Buffy, The Craft.
Yeah, but those are TV shows, Sam, and you don't understand that we're more skilled than
We
TV
are a
show
very
writers.
serious religion. We are not a TV show.
You know, I'm really enjoying Real American Muslim. I think it's a great show. But I really want them to do like Real American Pagans. I think that would be so kick-ass.
Depends on the pagan. Well, actually, there actually is a show like that.
Well, when I talk about
does.
pagans being cool, I talk about us. I mean, that's pretty much it. And possibly our listeners, if we had any.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about, like, you know.
Well, Witch School does a reality show with teenage and young adult pagans as a reality show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I want it to be on, like, TLC. I want there to be commercials. I want there to be, like...
Yeah, they're on demand. If you gotta have, I think, Comcast, I think. But, yeah, they're on demand.
What show?
Oh, shit. Let me look it up.
Oh, my God. The Dark-Sided episode of Trading Spouses
was fantastic.
I died. That was so fun. I have to find it now.
The name of the show is The Young Witches of Salem.
Let's see.
I mean, the basics of what it comes down to is we've all kind of said, well, this is okay, and this is not okay, and this is why. You know, this is where we get it from. This is why we get it. Da 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 da. And it's very easy to point out if somebody tries to bring up a counterpoint on why it's not okay. And that's cool. It's normal. On the other half of the pagan scale, everybody seems to dance around the idea that we either accept everyone's way of doing things or we adhere to strict rules. You know, it's, well, if it feels right, this is what I do. And because it feels right, it's okay for me.
Insert obligatory Amber rant about raping boys here.
Well, Sam kind of had a counterpoint, so I was going to let her jump in if she wanted before I attack the 5-year-old rapist again.
I was thinking, damn 5-year-old rapist. Which goes back to consent. If I could honestly say a 5-year-old was able to thoroughly think out the implications of having a relationship, I'd be all for it. I was gonna say drug use, but then drug use only really screws up the person doing the drugs, so it's not as good as an example as your pedo example. I was hoping to get out of work early enough to change that in the show notes, but
You know, and as my inevitable raping 5-year-olds example, in normal well, not normal, there's nothing normal about it, but in more mundane conversation, using the feel right argument, there are people that rape 5-year-olds and say it feels right. Does that mean it's okay? No. So if we take this into a little bit more of a, if we want to use the word kosher, let's talk about legal versus what's appropriate in the faith. When is it a good time to break the law because what you're doing is cosmically okay?
Well, we break the law a lot on this show depending on what country you're in.
Yes. Yes,
I mean,
we do.
speaking freely about religion is illegal in good 50 or so countries. We commit acts of blasphemy. I know that's illegal in Ireland. And we can keep going on down the list, and we don't seem to think anything of it.
So what about something that's a little more personal? What about peyote? I mean, taking as a religious sacrament, it's still not allowed unless you have the proper documentation.
At the same, yeah, but when you get something like peyote, it is so easy for idiots to just come in and be like, ooh, look at this, and totally overlook the whole sacred aspect of it, that legality aside, it's blasphemy.
Mm-hmm. But for somebody that respects it, and it's still illegal for them to do it, does that mean that it's an okay thing for them to break the law because they're respecting it for the sacrament that it is?
I don't see the problem with that. As long as they're doing it as a sacrament and not as a drug habitual user. I mean, you don't do peyote every day you get home from work.
I agree. But I know there's a lot of people that will say, well, it's against the law, it's for everybody's protection.
Well, if you need law to determine what you should and should not do, I think you've missed the point on morality. And why laws exist in the first place.
Just a little
Technically, it's against the law to drive barefoot in North Carolina, but I certainly have done it. And the one time, the way I even found out that it was illegal, when I showed the nice police officer why I was driving barefoot, he took one look at what was all over my shoes, turned a little bit green, said, "I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before," and said, "Well, you know, carry on. Good luck. Hope you get home safe." Law is made to serve man, not man to serve law.
I mean, law is supposed to be there to be supposed to be there to stop Darwin from working so well. I mean, basically. It's like, you may not realize, but this is actually a bad idea. Granted, laws have since been manipulated into controlling us, but that's a whole different conversation.
So basically we can say that as long as somebody has... Like, let's go with Athames in California. Would it then be okay for somebody to have a double-edged Athame in California?
I don't know, are they inside a prison?
Well, California, you're not allowed to.
Oh.
Can't be double-edged.
No double-edged weapons in California and, like, 2 other states.
No, that's just lame.
It is lame.
It is, but... I mean, if you're Wiccan, you are supposed to have a sword and an athame, and it must be, you know, such and such length and generally this design.
Does depend on what breed of Wiccan.
Yeah, but it's still, if you want to go into it even further, I mean, one thing that a lot of Wiccan traditions will agree on is if you make it yourself, there is a little bit more energy to it. So make it yourself. Get a blade that's got one edge, make a second edge on it. End of story. It's not like there's the concept that it's very well known in Europe. I don't think it's as well known here in the States. It's called the Panopticon. And the Panopticon, what that's all about is police try to have enough presence so that it gives you the illusion they are watching you everywhere at all times. Even though that is not the reality. They can't possibly know everything about everyone at all times. Even if you had all that data, sifting through it is a nightmare. But, you know, just don't be an ass about it. Don't provoke problems. I mean, usually the people that get into trouble over these silly, marginally enforced laws are the ones that are out there provoking conflict with either the police or just being a general asshole in their communities in person.
For some reason, the old song Breaking the Law is in my head, and I feel we need to insert it. And it's really upsetting me.
I mean, it basically boils down to, is this important enough to my spirituality that I'm willing to go to jail for it?
Mm-hmm. But taking the side of, well, it is my divine given right, so therefore it should be legal, that would be nice in a perfect world. However, as Dave said, weigh the pros and cons. If it is important enough to you to possibly go to jail for it, then go for it. As long as you just keep that in mind.
Yeah, don't be using your quote-unquote athame in the middle of a fucking riot in L.A. That will probably get you in trouble.
Yeah.
A little bit.
And I've heard it said before, I'm not sure if it was here or somewhere else. And this kind of goes into a little bit of what Sam was talking about before. If we assume for a second that if we say figuring out magic things and the morality of magic things, if we take for granted that magic is just science that hasn't been explained yet, is there any reason that it shouldn't have rules just like quantum physics or psychology? Brandon, you're supposed to talk about Jurassic Park here.
He probably has forgotten to unmute himself again.
No, I was actually munching on chips. There's a quote in Michael Crichton's book, or one of the quotes from his characters, that, just because you can do something, should you? Or, is it something along those lines? I forget what the exact quote is. But, I mean, there's a lot of things in the metaphysical realm that, going back to a certain famous episode about pop culture magic, just because you can manipulate energy a certain way, is it a good idea to do it? I think that comes into a play more so on a higher level, like what a lot of us do, or on the very newbie end of it, that they don't necessarily get a lot of the ideas behind the religion. They're just sort of going out and doing.
They're not practicing a religion. They're out there to do magic tricks.
Yeah. And, that's sort of where I feel like this comes into play. I'm going to shut up and let somebody else take over.
But you were doing so well.
I know, but I just completely lost my train of thought. It sort of hit a brick wall and fell to the ground.
Okay. If we keep going with the idea of science and if you can do it, a controversial thing in science, such as, a lot of people still have very strong feelings on stem cell research and whether it's good, whether it's bad, so on and so forth. And we can relate that to a lot of pagans have very strong feelings on pop culture magic, or where transgendered people fit in feminist covens, or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But if we go ahead, Dave.
I think also keep in mind that a lot of strong feelings are not often based in fact. Often they're based on silliness, emotion, or just plain old illiteracy. They just fail to have an accurate understanding of the concept being explained. We see this a lot with various different things. Stop the windmills! They cause wind! What? There are people out there that believe that windmills generate wind.
I laugh until I understand.
I mean, a more relevant example to this show is when we had Taylor Elwood on explaining pop culture magic. And then we had a separate episode much later on where we explained pop culture magic. And it was like, oh. Well, that sounds a lot more sane.
Some of it's understanding, or some of it is misguided morals or feelings, or if we relate it to inevitable Nazi comments, if you say, were the medical tests that Nazis did to unwilling participants right, in the eyes of science? Using the, but it's for science, the same as, but it feels right. Most people will say, no, it wasn't an okay thing for them to do. Just as there are some things in energy work that a lot of people will say, no, it is not okay to do this. Whether it's something that they just don't understand, or for whatever reason they just have really strict views, whether it's animal sacrifice, pop culture magic, the details on what exactly it is doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but then there's also things that are generally considered good or generally considered evil, that they are what they are, and they don't even make any goddamn sense. For example, in the United States, we hold up the Constitution of, this is all things that are good, and it helps us outline all things that are bad, at least as far as legalities go. Mm-hmm. Yet, according to the Constitution, well, women don't quite have rights. And every time we try to fix that alleged oversight, it never goes through. Not even in the 21st century has it gone through. So is this really an oversight, or is this intentionally stripping women of rights? I mean, there's just some things that are just in place You know, that's a legal example, but there's also things in metaphysics that are very much like that. You got to question, is it there for the sake of being there, and it's there because it's been there for so long, or is there actual things to back it up?
Example?
I think blood magic is a really close example. It's not a very accurate example, but it's a good example, especially in the context of Wicca and the Wiccan worldview. The point of blood magic in the context of Wicca is that it is so powerful it should be rarely used and respected as something that could be used as a last resort, or at the very least used for very important things. But over the years, that has gotten translated into just don't do blood magic. And now we have generations of people that have learned just don't do blood magic. They've forgotten why we don't do blood magic. Well, it's not that we don't. There's a reason and circumstance for when we do. It's just that that particular tidbit of knowledge gets lost on a lot of people because they're learning out of books that have learned out of people who never really learned a religion in the first place.
Well, they've thrown discernment out the window and actually having to sit down and think about what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the consequences or what the motivators are. I don't go by the Wiccan read. I mean, I'm not Wiccan anyway, but I usually tend to go more along. I mean, there's people that follow a version of it that aren't. I tend to be more. Yeah, there you go. I tend to be more along the lines of do as needs done and pay the coin. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, if you have to do something that maybe isn't the best case scenario or your best option or is the lesser of two evils, does the situation merit? I'm situational ethics pretty much all the way on that. Does the situation call for it? Is it merited? And if so, are you prepared to deal with what may come your way because of it? And do you feel that it's still worth doing with that in mind? And I think people don't want to have to think about consequences or what. They don't want to have to say, they don't want to have to weigh the situation. They just want an easy or black and white do or do not.
Or a nice simple number like 3.
Well, yeah, But 3 is a magic number.
I think also a lot to keep in mind now we're stepping out of the realm of religion and into the realm of metaphysics is that some things are said and cited and repeated, and a lot of things have just become folklore. We're not even really sure if the original sources of this information had all their marbles, together to begin with, or were doing it as a joke. I'm going to cite a few examples here in sequence. The first one that comes to mind is Wiccans should never call extraterrestrial entities into circle. This is a very bad idea. People did this in the 70s. One group did this. Everybody that participated in the ritual was dead about a month later. Was there anything to that story? There's not even an ounce of proof to track that down. Next thing is, we're a PSG, and one of the things we were doing as part of an event is make up some pagan folklore. Well, somebody was walking by and hearing Selena Fox, a very well-known, well-respected member of the pagan community, participating in this little thing we were doing as a game to make up, pagan folklore. They might think that's actually what happened, not realizing it was meant completely as a joke. Let's see.
That's an occasion for do your homework.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had one more example, but it left me. But yeah, it basically boils down to do your homework.
Ha! So you're saying that one day...
Go ahead, Sam.
One day the cult of Amber will be a real religion. No one will know that we are kind of making a joke.
Hey, according to the ABCDEF, we are a bona fide cult.
I'm still excited about that.
Yeah, they cult evaluation frame.
When we get bumper stickers is what I want to know.
As soon as you make them snooze.
I want a bumper sticker.
That says, my name is Amber Roth and I am a Roman Catholic.
No.
Yes.
I disapprove.
Yeah, because then that would mean we have to purge the Roman Catholicism out of her again.
Yeah, and let's not do
No,
that.
we can get ones made up like all the churches have that say, follow me to thecultofambertemple.com or something.
With more members than a fairy chat.
Yeah. Keep rubbing it in, Dave.
Side idea. Get one that says PCP effect and just a question mark and have I'm bleeding profusely.com at the bottom of it. So people will be like, huh? What? Huh?
Oh, wow. This
Then
guy
go
one
onto the
screwed up
site
website.
and fuel the PCP effect.
Totally.
Or we could have, like, I am under the influence of PCP.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, because, that won't get you pulled over.
Right?
And then you could hand the police officer your business card and be like, listen to my podcast. And they'll be like, podcast? Be like, it's like a radio show on the internet. But here, go to my friend's YouTube video and he'll tell you why it's not actually a radio show on the internet.
Then you find out that he is a devout Catholic and writes you a ticket for speeding, even though that you were going underneath the speed limit.
But that's okay. You get to exercise the Roman Catholic out of him from a distance.
Stepping a little bit, going back to the topic before we continue on bumper stickers.
Hey, that's a fun side tangent.
I'm gonna design some of those now.
One of the, we can criticize other pagans, but I've also seen a lot of people argue that it's okay if we accept everybody's way of doing things in the pagan world, as long as by everybody you mean every pagan. Because
everybody's equal, except for me. I'm more equal than everyone.
Yes! I'll tell you what, I've seen people snap faster than a fundamentalist spouting on war on Christmas when it comes to the Eucharist being a form of cannibalism. So...
Well, all you need to do to see this in action is go onto any Pathos property.
Yeah. And if we say we see everything in shades of gray, I don't think seeing everything in shades of gray, except for those people over there, they are all shades of black.
Those people over at Pathos.
That it doesn't really work.
No. Because the only black people over there are Star and Jason, and everybody else is kind of in the gray area. I don't really mess with everybody else.
Yeah, some of them still have a lot of really awesome articles.
Yep. Teeth on Coil for one.
Yeah.
I like the family traditions.
The Daughters of Eve are pretty decent, too. They have a lot of interesting perspectives.
Yeah, that's an interesting blog. Over at Pathos.
Hence, we're seeing things in every shade of gray and saying these people...
As we bring up an example of a racial blog.
And a lot of times I hear that people trying to find reasons on going back to the as long as they're pagan, we accept them. Have we, as a pagan whole, have we really tried to understand other religions and how they may be very divine and very connected and very spiritual?
I don't think most pagans have. And in fact, I'll take that 3 steps further. The people that are like, you're pagan, you are now automatically my best friend forever. I think that mentality has caused a lot of the pure drama we see in the pagan community. Starting at, the stuff that Firelight brings up every year, the pagans calling each other not pagan just because they just don't like them for whatever silly reason. It's like, no, they're still pagan. You can dislike them, but they're still pagan. Yeah, they're not pagan because you've just decided, arbitrarily they're not. That's just not how it works.
Even if you'd like it to.
It's like, you gotta realize there are going to be pagans out there that you don't like. Deal with it.
I think that comes to the attitude that, we try to look at, not just with religion, but, the agree to disagree. I know me and you, Dave, Amber, people that other friends I have outside of the podcast and stuff, not that you guys aren't all my friends, but, there's things I don't agree with that perhaps you do, but we agree to disagree. The issue with paganism is that paganism, just like, alternative music or different styles of clothing, if we want to get into like a goth scene or an emo scene, attracts a lot of people that weren't able to agree to disagree with wherever they started from, and so they run away to an alternative where they can be as different as they want to be, but they never get past that whole idea of, because I exist, it means that you are also allowed to exist. And then, so there's this infantilism, I think, that just becomes prevalent when you're dealing with non-mainstream groups.
Special snowflake syndrome kills.
Special snowflake syndrome does kill.
Oh, man, I wish it would result in a brain hemorrhage or something. That'd be cooler.
And Sam, I think you bring up a really good point with the feelings of infantileness. Because I'm surprised there hasn't been a bloodbath over the definition of paganism.
What do you mean? I mean, it's the pagan media as a whole has been using that to drive sales of their magazines and ad revenue and everything for decades now because we can't come to an agreement over it. And oddly enough, I think one of the best definitions I've heard actually comes from Kara Schultz, and the definition basically boils down to I even forget how the definition goes. It was so awesome. It was basically, it is an umbrella of people who want to work together towards similar social political goals. Like, oh, well, if you remove the whole religion thing from it, man, that's easy to define.
Now, if we can't get past even seeing members of our own community as being okay to disagree, the comments looking on some of the more volatile sites or blogs, with a lot of them, there is no room for understanding the other point of view. Like, it's that terrifying to look outside of what you believe to try to see it from some other perspective. All that matters is condemning it. Mm-hmm. Because you have to be more right.
Yeah, it goes back to projecting onto other people what you want them to believe. And it takes a more adult person to go ahead and work with other people instead of constantly smacking them over the head. You know, if you really want to get stuff done, you can find a time. All you gotta do is quit commenting on blogs. It's really that simple. All of a sudden you get like a few hours a day because you're not commenting on blogs about petty crap. Go out there.
But Dave, how else will I get other people to understand my point of view? I have to post.
What you can do, you can start a podcast that'll take about 2 hours a week. And you still wind up with a net gain of time.
Go ahead, Sam.
Well, that goes back to stuff that I've said before where, being a marginalized group or being a minority, you feel like you're always under the microscope. You almost get this, like, Napoleonic complex. And so even the tiniest little, like, minutia of things, becomes this major thing because you feel like you have to prove yourself. And the thing is, in a religion, isn't your main goal focusing on, deity and not on other people's acceptance of that deity? And so trying to prove yourself really becomes a moot point But you see in these little minority religions where people just go completely overboard because they just think, we've gotten such a small slice of what major religions have, and if we lose that small slice, it's going to be a slippery slope to not being credible anymore. In the meantime, you're completely discrediting yourself because you're acting like a friggin' child instead of like an adult.
Yeah, and there comes to be a point where society as a whole will let you act like a child to demonstrate to everyone else, don't talk to this person, they're acting like a child.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Go ahead.
I think Sam is right in the whole Napoleonic complex. We saw this last year at the whole Christian Day drama. It's like all the pagans got up in arms, and then look how this played in the mainstream media. Everybody was making fun of Charlie Sheen. That's how it played. Paganism was all kinds of got their pennies in a bunch over nothing, as usual. I mean, I think pagans are, as a whole, not just the Wiccans, are just very Napoleonic, and they don't realize, hey, we carry enough sway in society now because there's enough of us that we don't need to worry about every tiny little PR thing.
But obviously, if we have the tiniest bit of negative PR, we're failing as a pagan group, Dave. Obviously.
Just shows we're not all getting along. Well, pretending to get along isn't doing us any good either.
No. And that causes just as many problems. And it goes back to what you said in the very beginning about nothing is saved by holding off conflict. It is a basic function of communication that if because I'm picking on Dave today, apparently, if Dave did something to upset me, unless I tell him, Dave, you did something to upset me, he can't possibly know what upset me and why, unless I tell him and spell it out. Therefore, I can't assume for him to change. I can't assume that I misunderstood. I can't assume any of it, and all it does is build animosity. And that goes from little things to big things.
I don't know, Amber. Don't you believe in telepathy and the power of will?
No, Dave. I've met too many pagans. I've stopped believing in that a long time ago.
And also, how narcissistic, since I'm a narcissist, is it to think that you have the ability to change somebody? I mean, that's one of those things you look at just in a partnership when you're looking, at a potential love.
But couldn't you use a love spell in this kind of way? Kind of the same way to manipulate their free will to accommodate your needs at a subconscious, passive-aggressive level?
Yeah, basically. But I mean, how many times has your parent or somebody older saying to you, if you don't like what your partner's doing, don't think you can change them. And yet, when it comes to things outside of that, we think that we can change people by making a bigger issue out of something than somebody else is, and therefore we're right because we're shouting louder.
If you don't need to shout, there's no need to do it.
But that's another intrinsic issue with paganism. We're dealing with a metaphysical system where we believe that we are able to change the outcome of stuff that is occurring. Or at least on a very basic level, people think that. I think once you get into more knowledgeable understanding of what energy work is, you realize there's not much that you can force to change. But it's complete narcissism to think, I am so uber powerful, amazing pagan, witch, warlock of, grand power initiate that what I say will change how everybody else thinks. instead of, and as cliche as it is, being an example of how you can change and adapt to your situations, and people being able to see you as an example and perhaps modify their thought process.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can change people just by talking to them civilly, like a person.
Mm-hmm.
Bad man.
And talking to them civilly and saying you're playing devil's advocate and trying to understand their motives in a very mocking tone, this is not consider them treating them like a human being.
Yes, Scurvy.
You've already decided that they're right. So stop it.
Stop it, Scurvy.
Yeah, it is... What's up?
I was going to say, poor Scurv, getting picked on while he's not even here to defend himself.
Nah, I'll make him post-produce this episode.
I was going to say, he'll see it he'll get it in post-production.
Barrett, I hate to tell you, but you kind of sound like a girl.
Amanda is with me. She's talking.
Thanks for clarifying.
He's had a little to drink.
I mean, and it's not just people that are stupid that get caught up in emotional responses. All of us, every last one of us, is prone to it. I mean, we can take a side and go, yeah, but I can take this point where everybody else gets all caught up and I can understand it logically. But there is some point that you're going to feel sensitive about, and really the only way to understand it and not let your emotions get in the way is to put yourself in the other point of view and try to understand. But for some reason, and it goes back to, again, well, if I understand them, that makes their viewpoint more right. And guys, this has nothing to do with because you can understand it makes somebody's viewpoint right or wrong. Understanding is just a way to treat the other person as a human being and have a discussion.
And pagans are supposed to believe in all this empathy crap anyway. Why don't you just get the feelings of the person and see where they're coming from? If you believe in this, why not do it?
Yeah, in the chat room, maybe it's a mature adult thing.
I was mentioning something in a Google Plus discussion. I really like the discussions on Google Plus. They're very mature. And I had a journalist on, and the journalist was just basically like, I've reported on so much crap. I can't be an optimist about this. There's got to be something up with this. I'm like, dude, you're a journalist. You're going to be pessimistic. You're exposed to all the random bad stuff that happens in society every single day. Whether it's somebody getting corrupt, journalism is defined by covering a news, and news is discovered by looking for hordes of angry people. No wonder you're going to think bad things.
One kind of follows the other.
Finding good news is you got to talk to the people on the street, because good news doesn't announce itself like bad news does. And that's a lot more work to find good news. I mean, that's kind of why I linger on Google+. We get a lot of really awesome leads on pagan stories that wind up on our Twitter feed at twitter.com/PCB podcast. I mean, and this is stuff you're not going to see on any Pathos property because, I don't know, whatever. They're not covering it for whatever reason. Like today there was a decision that heavily influences any possible future reiterations of the Patrick McCollum case. And I didn't see it covered on any Pathos property. I mean, and as big as the Patrick McCollum thing was, it's kind of surprising, but we posted it to our Twitter feed so it gets out there in the pagan media.
As long as it gets around.
Yep.
Like an STD.
News is like an STD. Especially bad news.
Well, we're talking of shades of gray. Some of them are like herpes, some of them are like syphilis.
Some of them are like AIDS. You're just completely screwed.
That's awesome.
Get it off, get it off. It's AIDS. You don't get it off.
Freudian slip.
awesome.
I don't know. I kind of wonder if a lot of the problems that we have, that whole thinking that if you can understand somebody's viewpoint, that it makes it more valid, is a misunderstanding of the phrase open-minded. Because a lot of people think that if you're open-minded, you just accept whatever somebody tells you. And open-mindedness is the willingness to consider an idea and then weigh it on its own merits. Not just swallow it.
What's this merit bullshit you're talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, maybe I'm asking people to be too logical. That's my problem here.
We can't have merits. This is paganism.
Exactly. That's our problem.
We're talking about glitter levels, Dave. Glitter levels.
Glitter level?
Does the concept you're talking about have X number of glitter graphics to support its convictions?
I think the glitter level for Patheos is over 9,000.
But Mist, I think you do have a point. If you're open-minded, that automatically means that eventually you'll agree with me.
Yeah, I mean,
somehow happens to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, it's that quote, and I can't remember who said it, but it's, be open-minded, but not so open-minded your brain falls out.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be a problem everywhere I go. Anywhere there's discussion and debate going on, it's no, you must listen to me because I am right and I am a special snowflake. And like I said, special snowflake syndrome kills.
You know, it's a great way to kill special snowflake syndrome? Make them get an education in Europe.
Yeah.
I think I have the personality of a European professor.
It's awesome, Dave. Now, I don't know where the idea of it's okay to still believe in what you believe in after your open-minded theory or after your open-minded process. It is okay to still think that your way is the right way after you've truly analyzed your point. It's all right. It is also okay if the other person in the discussion can see your point of view, but still doesn't agree with you. This is okay. It doesn't mean your point is less valid. It doesn't mean that you are less of a pagan because half of the chat room does not see things the way you do. People just disagree. This is okay. It does not mean they are evil people. It does not mean they are misled people. It does not mean you are misled and going down the wrong path.
Unless you're talking politics, in which case, yes. Well, like we said earlier, if you do this in politics, don't do it.
My point of view, politics is always wrong. So, no matter what you're saying. Because everybody's too angry and doesn't listen to anybody.
It's many little suckers on our time.
Yep.
Politics.
Agreed.
Yeah, we've said it earlier in the episode. If we can't see past little ideas of right and wrong when it comes to people's varying ideas in the pagan community and what they feel is right compared to what we feel is right, or the proper way, or whatever you want to put it as, how can we really truly say that pagans see things in all shades of gray and pagans really accept that good and evil are an intrinsic part if we can't even agree with other pagans and we feel mortally wounded if somebody disagrees with our morals?
Yeah, I think the whole thing of good versus evil at the same time, as much as it is about being open-minded, it's not about homogeneity, it's not about everybody agreeing with everybody, peace, love, happiness, bullshit. We're going to disagree. The point is knowing how to accommodate disagreement and still respect the person.
Now, I think I might have said it somewhere way, way back, but a lot of people, if you say, define evil for me, pure evil, a lot of the people are quick to do so. Doesn't mean it's accurate, but I mean, they'll say that it is the essence of chaos, it doesn't care for anything except death or destruction, Or, I mean, they'll all have examples usually. It's demons, it's this type of creature, it's this type of person, it's sociopaths, it's narcissists,
It's Pathos.com.
It's Pathos. But turn that around and say, can you explain to me pure goodness? And I've seen more people falter on, it's easy to point out things that they don't like and say that that's evil, that's bad, than point out something that is extreme good for everyone.
And you can, it's hard to define good. I mean, let's take a perfect example. Even in fiction, you get Doctor Who. The Doctor's supposed to be good, yet he commits genocide on a fairly routine basis.
Mm-hmm.
Phil Zimbardo, I posted a link in the chat. He's the first one who did the prison experiments back in the 70s. And he just, took regular people and said, all right, you're a guard, you're a prisoner. We've all heard this thing, and they had to stop the experiment because the guards became so inherently bad towards the inmates it caused them lasting psychological damage to the point where even now there's some people that are still in counseling trying to get over this. So he has this new thing out called the Lucifer Effect, and it talks about, like, what is evil? And basically for him, evil is knowing better but willingly doing worse. Which in a lot of ways can describe some of the prominent pagan leaders that we know of and that we kind of put down. But then his other end of that is, so if you have what is evil, he also talks about what is a hero. And so I'm going to read this quote because I think this kind of says, well, if we're defining good, we should also bad, we should define good. And so the opposite of someone who is evil would be a hero. And so Phil Zimbardo says that heroes are those who can somehow resist the power of the situation and act out of noble motives or behave in ways that do not demean others when they easily can. And I think that's one of the best definitions of what good is or what good behavior is.
Well, I kind of like a quote from another podcast, The Secrets in Plain Sight. And, as a former military person, he has a lot of very interesting analogies and lessons to provide. And one of them is the lesson of process versus progress. And it's like when you do something, you got to ask yourself, are you doing this for process or are you doing this for progress? Are you doing this because this is something that, either out of procedure or out of habit you feel needs to get done? Or is this going to move the situation forward? And that's a question you need to ask whenever you do something.
So basically what you're saying is to actually be in balance, Dave, you need to think?
Oh, fuck that thinking thing. Most of the big community doesn't. Oh, wait, that's the problem. They don't think.
Yeah. Or at least that they don't want to think. I mean, we talk about, or at least everything that I've seen, a lot of paganism points to this theory of accountability. But really, we don't want to be accountable for anything. And if we don't think, then we can't be accountable for anything because we didn't put any effort forth to it. If somebody tells us what to do and we do it, then it's their fault. You
want to see a novice's mind explode? Remind them that they're responsible for their inaction as well as their action. That usually kicks them in the ass to do something.
Yeah.
Post-scurvy silence, take a drink.
I'm going to say, do we call that a post-Dave silence now?
think there was 3 mentions of raping a 5-year-old, so take 3 drinks if you haven't done so already.
Hey, there were only 2. There were only 2.
Okay, 2 drinks. Keep the third if you already got it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I got distracted.
Apparently, talking about novices' minds exploding makes our minds explode as well.
We just all got distracted by fish poop.
I think the basis is it's one thing to say that we are seeing in shades of gray, and it's not that seeing in shades of gray is not possible, and it's not that both ends of the spectrum don't exist. But if we are going to claim that we see all shades of gray as a community, we need to start actually holding ourselves up to that standard.
More to the point, you gotta eventually have a point of forgiveness. I mean, if somebody did something to you when you were like 20 years old and it's now 30 years later, you know, fucking get over the chip on your goddamn shoulder already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, eventually this stuff with us and Patheos will fly by and we'll have some other target to go after, but I'm just saying it as it is. I mean, I'm not going to try to make that politically correct. And, you know, eventually there will be a point of forgiveness. And there's a lot of factors that go into it, but that's also part of looking at good versus evil. I mean, do you permanently remove something from your life? Well, permanent's a pretty freaking long time and usually not necessary. I mean, even in the worst circumstances, you just need something to teach somebody a lesson, or just get somebody's drama out of your freaking life for a while. Yeah, there's always
and all
aspect.
of that is okay. It's a natural process of things.
Dave, I predict that one day most of Patheos will wake up confused and sticky in a jail cell in Tijuana, and you'll be the one that they call for bail money. Just saying.
I think I can make that happen.
Picture it doesn't.
I need to remember to bring my passport to Pantheon.
I never said I wasn't a fairly petty person. You know?
Man, if only it was taking place in San Diego instead of San Jose, I could just put them on a bus to Tijuana.
Cricket, 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 cricket.
I'm just thinking of jailhouse scenarios of Patheo staff members.
Right?
Have like Star and like Jason half naked in a single jail cell, and have like Star's lipstick over Jason, and they'll wake up and they're like, "What the fuck did we do?"
This sounds
that's why
like
that's why
it's meant to the chat room conversation.
You realize we now are no more better than people that write, you know, Harry Potter and Malfoy fanfic. We have gone into that realm.
You know, to take this tangent even more off topic. There was actually a thing at the CCC this year. It's actually a utility you can use to write better fanfic, so that your writing style you can use it to match up to the original authors more precisely.
Nice.
Cool. Sam, remind me. I will send you one of those that's actually really, really good.
One of
amazingly good, in fact.
Fanfic?
It's a Harry Potter Draco Malfoy fanfic that was written by a student for her creative writing class, and she submitted it to the fanfic board for people to beta before she turned it in for her project, and it's actually ravingly good. Remind me, and I'll send you a link to it.
I don't know if I want it.
No, I'm serious. That's one of those things. It's one of those things that you keep around just to whip out and mess with people's heads because they go, okay, this does not fit my paradigm.
You had to use the phrase "whip out," right? That just had to throw because now. Oh God. Anyway, hey, how about those topics?
I like to mess with people's heads. What good's having a brain if you can't take it out and bang it on the floor once in a while?
Nice to shake things up a little bit.
Shaking.
Especially in other people's heads.
Shaking is good as long as it is not intense.
Yeah. Well, psychological shaking.
Brandon, take notes. This is what Amber wants in the bedroom.
No, Dave.
What, I heard my name?
Never mind.
It's nice to know that you're paying attention, dear.
You're welcome.
You're on mute.
I know.
Okay.
There will be a test, and this will be on your permanent record.
We could just mark a fail and be done with it. I think that'd be accurate. So maybe we should move on to final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Said we got a final thought?
Final thought.
It has cookies.
The final thought has cookies. Okay, we can go with that.
It has cookies. Dark side, cookies.
Have cookies.
My final thought is for those who joined me in the drinking game. Good game. Play again next time when you get out of the hospital.
So what were the rules of the game again? I know there was a shot for every post-cure resounds. I made up a shot for every time Amber mentions raping a 5-year-old.
Every time Pathos...
Oh, Pathos was mentioned? Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I need to drink a lot more then.
Yeah, really.
Where's the bottle?
I'm just gonna go, drink the entire bottle.
Yeah, pretty much.
Didn't you have one for every time Scurvy goes on a not really relevant topic without details that show how...
Oh, every time Scurvy tells a story that has no details in it?
Yep.
I think every time Scurvy says the word heuristics, that should be a shot.
Narcissism.
Heck yeah.
I think I saw one for every reoccurrence of a topic.
Yep.
Yeah.
We need to make a list of these.
PCP, the official drinking game.
That needs to be on the site.
Yeah, we used to have a drinking game too, but that drinking
I think
game's
that was
way
when
out of date.
Jason was involved.
Yeah, it was, because most of the things were Jason saying stupid shit.
Oh, don't we miss him?
It has to be.
No, not really.
ECP, the drinking game, has to be on its own tab. On the site.
No, it should be on the live tab.
It should,
Okay.
yeah, because...
The live experience. That could lead to some very interesting commentary on air.
I think if we did PCP, the board game, like Kat said, it should be kind of like Risk, where we slowly conquer the world.
PCP effect.
You can either be Pathos or the Cult of Amber?
Never
like
start a
Shakiro.
land war on
We could have
about.com.
Catholic Church.
And then you have the Followers of Cthulhu. And if you have the Followers of Cthulhu, you automatically have an unspoken pact with the Cult of Amber. So you can overtake. This is awesome. We could totally do this.
Dude, Amber cultists worship Amber properly.
No.
Amber, how do we worship you?
I don't know. Set up a damn thing.
By saying really terrible things like, you're the closest thing I have to deity.
I hate
And then
you.
watching Amber freak out.
Chocolate.
Chocolate's cool with me, only I'm allergic to it, so I'm not supposed to have it. I don't know if that counts.
Oh, well, bugger. There goes my standard. If I can't do beer or chocolate, I don't know what to do.
We have, metaphysical operation, except, all the normal things
I'm
never
not-
work.
Yeah, my eclecticism is fairly limited to food that's bad for you.
We could take like cataracts off of your third eye.
Hi.
If you win, the world gets destroyed.
Awesome. Well, not the world, just people.
It's just people.
Speaking of stupid things people have done, so there was a tortoise that they thought was extinct for 150 years, and recently they found that, it wasn't extinct, it just kind of moved. It's been here the whole time, guys. Don't worry about it.
That's almost a drinking
walked
game all
into
by
the
itself.
museum.
Where did it move to?
Moving on up. Moving on up.
Where did it
We need to do some PCP Skype karaoke one night.
Don't involve me. We all know I am tone deaf.
But if we give you
Have
some
to be
bourbon
very-
or something, and you think that you're Superman,
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
does Kat know about this? Because
No, she. I don't think I've told her the bourbon story yet.
You're a terrible boyfriend.
Two double
Nothing
rocks
for
glasses is good for at least 2 octaves.
Think you snooze, you speak from experience.
Damn straight, I'm not a female tenor all the time. I can do Think of Me from Phantom if I've had at least 3 beers.
So we might as well make this a final thought. One day I was in Kentucky, and we were out at work doing actual work stuff, hanging out with clients, and part of that is drinking with clients. So we got on, and the first round of drinks is quite a doozy. It's aged bourbon. The bill for that actually came to be like $900, and somebody forgot to put that on our bill, so we don't know whatever happened. But, serious aged whiskey here, bourbon, real shit. We're in Louisville. So, I have like 2 ounces of this stuff, and I am like plastered. Like super plastered. Like my boss gave me beer to sober up plastered.
Oh, wow.
And I was walking into walls and everything. I'm like, shit. How the fuck am I getting home? They have this whole don't walk around drunk ordinance here in Louisville. And man, I'm fucking drunk. Well, I drink a few more beers and I sober up and I walk back to my hotel and make it all the way back to my hotel, which is a few blocks away. Walk into the hotel bar to take a shortcut and I fall on my face. Now, I think I told Kat that part of the story. But, I fall flat on my face in the bar and the bartender's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I just keep walking through the hotel, get to my room, calls up for the night. Then I hop on my phone. That was a mistake. Call up Ashley. Hey, Ashley! I feel like Superman. I could do anything right now. What do you need?
Oh my.
She was like, calm down, Dave. I believe you. Calm down. Feel like Superman. It's like 2 in the goddamn morning. And she's got work at like 5 in the morning at that time. Yeah, I get drunk easily.
Notes to file away for later blackmail opportunities.
That's my final thought.
Final thought. Go ahead.
It's an idea that I had whenever I was helping Amber work on the show notes and whatnot. But the idea of the 7 deadly sins. Sorry. I know we were discussing good and evil, but the sin, yada yada yada, goes back to Christianity. Through a lot of my experiences, whether it was through college or high school or just generally watching people and people I knew, a lot of them actually hold true, but most of them also are general human traits. And it's sort of that balance between good and evil. How far do you go? You know, yes, everybody succumbs to those feelings, whether it's greed or lust or envy or whatever. Whether they're good or evil, it still has an effect on the people around you. But to actually say that it's a sin is not necessarily right. It's more of a human nature, but they are very dangerous if you do not keep them under control. And I think that goes for a lot of things in which we as pagans do. Basically, just being careful, mind your surroundings, mind what the consequences of what you do are. Whether it's black or white or dark or shadow or whatever type of magic you happen to do. It's sort of a good think on it matter. So that's going to be my final thought.
I think my final thought is that special snowflake syndrome kills, and people need to make sure they know the definitions of words before they use them. Like open-mindedness.
Is that everybody?
I lost my final thought somewhere along the way, but that's alright.
You can fly a kite and try to find it.
My final
Kites
thought
don't
is...
fly right in rain, though.
Somebody was saying something.
No, it's just... My final thought is that I'm sexy and I know it.
I hate you. No, it's a really, really bad song.
Oh, okay.
Really
posting the
It
link.
is bad. Oh, it's horrible.
Dave, it hurts. I'm sexy and I know it. You're so lucky. Don't click any link they sent.
No, I think I remember that song from the early 90s.
No.
No, it's a new one.
You have to watch
No.
the video, because that's possibly the
Oh,
best.
is this a new song like that has a terrible beat and no real words to it?
I'm sexy and I know it. Yeah.
The wiggle.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that sucks.
The wiggle.
Yeah.
No, the worst part.
Yeah.
I think the worst part about it is I definitely saw a video the other day of somebody's 3-year-old child singing and dancing to that song.
Yeah, I saw that,
That
too.
was great.
Yeah, that was
Killed
frightening.
somebody.
Yeah, I think my conclusion on that one is YouTube inspires horrible parenting.
Or allows us to all comment on the fail of their parenting.
Yep.
Now, if only YouTube comments weren't so full of fail, I could post something snarky or sarcastic, and people would actually get it.
And I think this just goes back to prove my point that we can still see in shades of gray, and yet some things are just inherently wrong.
Yeah. So, next week we're going to talk about something that is inherently not wrong.
I think we're doing a Pangaea
Yes, it's the
shopping interview.
Pangaea shopping episode, yo. So go to Pangaea shop, buy some shit, and we'll talk about it next week.
Woo!
The awesome people from Pangaea.
Yay!
Otherwise known as the people that host Pagan Musings. So that's our shop of the month for Pagan Shopping Network, and we'll be recording that interview next Wednesday at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. Everything everywhere else. So that's it for this week's episode of PCP, the Pagan Center Podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night!
Good night.
Good night.
Night.